Hello, hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with the beautiful Miss Felicia Marshall. She is the founder of Grant Me Justice, the organization, and she will soon be the author of the book, Grant Me Justice, A Mother's Journey for Justice. So, y'all, please help me welcome the beautiful Miss Felicia Marshall. Hello, you guys, and thank y'all so much for joining us for another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. I'm so excited to be sitting here with the beautiful Miss Felicia Marshall. Felicia, welcome to Woman with Joanne stage. How are you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited that you chose to come and share your story with us, your journey.
Mm-hmm.
So here on Woman to Woman with Joanne, and sometimes I feel like it's just the monotony of the show, but this is what I love, just hearing the stories of Mississippi women. So I want to hear your experience. So tell us first, where were you born and raised? Were you born and raised here in Mississippi?
Yes, I'm actually from Prentice, Mississippi.
Prentice,
awesome. Near Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my entire family, my mother's family, as well as my father's. We grew up there. My parents divorced when I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we moved to Jackson. So I've been in the Jackson area ever since I was about 7.
7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So talk to me about your experience growing up here in our lovely state of Mississippi.
Well, I love the state of Mississippi too, so much so I've never been anywhere else. But like I said, we grew up in Prentice, Mississippi, spent a lot of time with my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents had farms, and so we grew up picking cucumbers and selling cucumbers.
Awesome.
My grandfather, who is still alive today, is 99 years old.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And when my mother was 3, my grandfather decided to build a house, and my grandfather built a house there. By hand. He didn't know how to build one. He just did it, he and my grandmother. And that's where their 8 children were raised, as well as all of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And so I spent a lot of my time there during the summer. I spent time with my mom, who was a single mother here in the Jackson area.
Well, you said he didn't know how to build a house, but so many generations lived in that house. He did pretty good.
Absolutely. He did. My grandfather tells us all the time that he just had seen other people. He had seen them build houses before. He had never had a plan, and he just knew that he wanted to be able to provide for his family.
Right.
And he got wood and nails, and he and my grandmother built that house by hand.
That is
no
amazing.
Power tools, just a hammer and nails.
Awesome.
The house had a back room, an out room, a living room, a kitchen, and a dining room.
Awesome.
At that time, there was no indoor plumbing, but that was our home.
Right.
My grandparents welcomed all of us there, generation after generation there in that house.
Wow. Well, that's just amazing. Well, Felicia, talk to us about when you moved to Jackson. What was your experience coming from Prentice to Jackson, Mississippi? Tell me about your experience here.
Of course, it was kind of different. My parents had a very unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
And so now my mom was a single mother trying to raise 3 children. So for us, it was difficult. My mom had to work at night, and we were left to basically care for ourselves while my mom worked.
Right.
And for me as a girl, because I was the only girl, 2 boys and a girl. And for me, I experienced things that I'm sure my brothers did not.
Yeah.
I experienced my first instance of molestation.
Oh, wow.
At the age of 9, up until I was like 15 years old.
Wow.
So for me, it was difficult. But at the same time, I think I would not be the woman I am today had I not experienced those things.
Right.
My mom struggled, and I don't think I even was able to understand the sacrifices that she actually made for us as a single mother.
Right.
Now I do, because my mom is gone.
Yeah.
And I'm able to reflect on who she was and what she did. But I'm grateful for the experience.
Right.
When I look at it, I look at God's hand in my life, all throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
Although my mom was not a person that went to church, I learned how to pray somewhere. I don't know
Yes.
where that was. And so I would always get on my knees and pray. At the age of 12, I made my first deal with the Lord. I
Awesome.
told him if he would allow my mom to get out of the hospital, that I would stop sucking my thumb. So he kept his end of the bargain, and I kept
Yes.
mine. Stopped
Awesome.
sucking my thumb at the age of 12. And so, but I've seen God's hand through my life
Yeah.
the entire journey.
And I love your attitude as far as, being healed and delivered and settled in. This has happened, but now I have to make a decision to keep moving forward and not let this thing rule over me.
Absolutely.
I love that attitude because sometimes it's hard for other people to make that decision and move forward.
Yeah.
So I love that. Felicia, talk to me about the organization. Now you have several organizations, and some of them are Facebook groups, but the one that, and you can tell us about all of them, but I want to, before we end this segment, start talking about this one, and then we can kind of follow up, when we come back from a break. But talk to me about SHE. What does it stand for? And then tell us what it's all about.
SHE stands for Sisters Here to Empower.
Right.
And it's a 501c3 organization. It was co-founded by me and my aunt, who is really like my sister. And the reason why we founded the organization is because we knew that we had grown up in poverty.
Yes.
My grandfather grew up during the time of the Great Depression. My grandmother did not work, my father worked, and my mom just watching everybody in our family struggle with poverty. And so we set out to change the way and to reduce the number of women who live in poverty in Mississippi.
Yes.
That's the goal of the organization. We've done that through 3 components. One is SHE Helps. And SHE Helps is an organization that does things in the community.
Right.
SHE Works. And SHE Works is teaching people how to own their own businesses.
Yes.
And out of SHE Works, we've started businesses underneath SHE Works that feeds into SHE Helps.
Yes.
And then we have SHE Speaks. And SHE Speaks is the voice to women in poverty. And that's where we teach people about poverty and what poverty is and what poverty does.
Right. That's awesome. And so when we come back from the break, I want to kind of talk about some of the things that you do with SHE Helps, SHE Speaks, SHE Works. Some of the things that they do to help bring awareness to women who are living in poverty here in Mississippi, and then how it helps, some of the programs that it has in place for us, okay? All right. Okay, you guys, we're going to take a short break. We will be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne.
During a public health crisis, it can be hard for those facing domestic abuse to know what to do. Being confined in the same space as an abuser can increase threats to safety, and leaving an abusive relationship during a crisis can be even more difficult than normal. You can help. Ask them how they want to connect and be creative. Be supportive and believe them. Help them think through how to stay safe. Following these tips, you can help victims of domestic violence stay safe during COVID-19.
I really didn't think that I was going to get this job, but I am so excited that I did. Let's celebrate.
But what about the house?
I was so excited about getting the job. I didn't think about moving and trying to sell a house.
So how are we gonna do all this?
Oh, sorry. I heard y'all were trying to sell your home. Well, look, I know a great real estate company that not only puts a sign in your yard, but they'll also market your home.
Ma'am, we're here trying to celebrate my wife's new job.
Congratulations, girl. Well, look, like I was saying, this company even allows you to choose your own marketing. They can also help you purchase a new home.
Really?
Community First Real Estate. Oops, let me go. I see some people coming in and they love to talk and invade your privacy. Bye-bye.
Call now, Community First Real Estate, 601-956-6567.
Stephen James Foundation presents the 5th annual Old School Party with a Purpose. Saturday, May 29th at the Mississippi Trademark Center in Jackson. And on the deck, it's DJ Kid Capri.
DJ
and the legendary Goody Mob. Grab your old school gear and mask up. COVID guidelines strictly enforced. It's DJ Kid Capri and Goody Mob at the 5th annual Old School Party with a Purpose. Saturday, May 29th at the Mississippi Trademark Center in Jackson, benefiting Stupid Community Services. Get tickets now at eventbrite.com.
Okay, you guys, we are back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne, and y'all missed all the behind the scenes fun. But we're still here with the lovely Miss Felicia Marshall. So Felicia, let's continue to talk about Talk to us about the things that are in place that help bring awareness to women in Mississippi who are living in poverty, and then what it does, what you guys do to help.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about She Works.
Yes.
She Works, of course, is the component that teaches us that we don't always have to work for other people, that we can do some things on our own. So She Works, what we have is people that own their own business, serve as mentors to people that want to own their own business. Say, for instance, you wanted to own a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Then we have businesses that own restaurants, that bring a person alongside of them to teach them about the restaurant business.
Awesome.
In the midst of all of that, we sit down with them and we talk to them about their business plans, their goals, the budget, and all the things of business ownership. So that's She Works. Mm-hmm. And then we also have She Helps. Mm-hmm. And She Helps part of She Helps is we teach women about different things, say credit. Mm-hmm. It's very important for us to have our credit scores up to par, so we teach them about credit. Mm-hmm. We teach them about home ownership.
Yes. We
teach them about budgeting. We teach them about time management.
Yes.
And what we found when we're working with these women is normally a 12-week program that is hard to change mindsets.
Yes.
That's the most difficult part about it, is teaching people a different way of thinking.
That's right.
There's someone gave me words of advice one time and told me that to the sick, the well looks sick. Mm. So what that means is that for a person that's sick, although you're well, you look like you're the sick person. Mm-hmm. And so we have to change the dynamics of that. We have to change the way people think, how they feel about money, and the things that we purchase with money. We have to talk to people about budgeting. Yes. Most people do not want to live by a budget. No. So those are the hard parts that we've had to deal with.
Right. Right. So talk to us about what you know about women in Mississippi, because I've never really heard it talked about, women in Mississippi living in poverty. I've heard people say that there are people who work maybe 2 or 3 jobs but still live in a homeless shelter because they still can't afford rent. Having a poverty mindset. Talk to us about that. What does that look like? And then trying to help people change that poverty mindset, because it is a mindset as it pertains to poverty, and it can be how you grew up and you think that's the way it's supposed to be, and things like that. So talk to us about.
Well, we have a lot of in Mississippi, not only in Mississippi, all over the United States, is we have the working poor.
Yes.
And we have people that are working, but still don't, like my grandmother used to say, don't have enough, have more month than money.
Exactly.
So we have the working poor. And the system is set up like that. The way that the government systems are set up is they reward you for not doing.
Yes.
And so that has caused a lot of poverty in Mississippi.
Yes.
Most of the time you find this to be generational.
Yes.
You see generation after generation after generation living the same way.
Definitely.
Even me, I think about when I was 18, in my mind, I thought I wanted to go to the Air Force. I got pregnant. And so my goal was to draw food stamps and AFDC. That's what I had seen people in my family doing.
Right.
And that was my desire.
Right.
Was to do what everybody else was doing. And it's the same way here. Now, what we do is we find people that spend a lot of money. We don't think about saving. No one wants to save. We see people that want to look the part of having money, but don't really have a whole lot of money.
Right.
We want to look like we want to have the best of clothes, the most expensive shoes. We want to have the nicest cars. We do all of those things.
Yeah.
And we're broke.
Definitely.
We're just looking the part.
Right.
We're just looking the part. So there's a poverty mentality.
Right.
That's what we have.
Right. And we have to work on trying to break that mindset. Felicia, now I want to move forward and talk about Grant Me Justice. Talk to me about that organization, how it started, and you're also working to complete your book titled Grant Me Justice, A Mother's
Journey for Justice.
A Mother's Journey for Justice. So talk to us about Grant Me Justice.
Whew.
Yeah.
Grant Me Justice was birthed from the fact that my daughter was killed on March 14, 2017. My daughter was murdered in a drive-by shooting here in Jackson. She was the 14th murder of Jackson.
2017.
2017. So during that time, you know, if you lose a child in that way, it's so mind-blowing till you don't know what to do.
Right.
And I felt like somebody had kicked me in my chest. And I was waiting for something to happen to say that I was in a big dream.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not what happened. And it was so devastating because this child was 26 years old. She had a child at the time who was 3. And I just did not know what I was going to do. I had so many hopes and aspirations and dreams for her, and for her life to be snatched away like that was so disappointing and hurtful, and I didn't know what to do. So to be honest, I was angry with the Lord. I was like, God, you're supposed to do something.
Yes. Right.
I was a believer. I had been saved since 1999. I knew all of the scriptures. I knew I was faithful in the church, but I was silently upset with God because I felt like he should have been able to do something.
Yeah.
And in that, I was like, God, I don't know how you can work this out for my good. It's impossible for you to work this thing out for my good. And so during that time, it took like 3 or 4 months. I couldn't even pray.
Wow.
I couldn't find the words to pray. I was looking for signs from God to, you know, appear in the sky or something. And so out of that came Grant Me Justice.
Yes.
As a mother who had to go through the system of the legal system of the criminal justice world, I struggled.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was just like being a virgin, going through the process and being raped over and over and over again. Because you go in thinking that the state of Mississippi is representing you. And you're thinking that the state of Mississippi is going to represent you well. But what you find is the state of Mississippi really doesn't represent either of you.
Wow.
Nor the victim nor the defendant.
Wow.
So I found myself going through that, and I knew that there were other mothers who had experienced the same thing that I had. And I wanted to use my daughter's life to advocate for mothers who had experienced the same thing.
Right.
And there are many of us.
Definitely.
So there were 3 people that were convicted for my daughter's death. One received 15 years, one 12, and one is walking free today.
Wow. We're going to take a short break.
Okay.
I hate to cut you off right there. But when we come back, we're going to continue in that same vein, okay?
Okay.
Okay, you guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne.
During a public health crisis, it can be hard for those facing domestic abuse to know what to do. Being confined in the same space as an abuser can increase threats to safety, and leaving an abusive relationship during a crisis can be even more difficult than normal. You can help. Ask them how they want to connect and be creative. Be supportive and believe them. Help them think through how to stay safe. Following these tips, you can help victims of domestic violence stay safe during COVID-19.
Okay, you guys, we are back and we're still here with Miss Felicia Marshall. So Felicia, you said one was convicted of 15 years, one was convicted of how
12
many?
and 1 5. Now, they all got an opportunity to plea out.
Yeah.
The first one, based on her plea, part of her plea was for her to testify against the other two. So you would think that if her plea was based on the fact that she was going to testify against the other two, then the other two would automatically go before a jury.
Right.
But that's not the case. All three were given the opportunity to plea.
Wow.
And so in that process, though, I learned that the system is broken. It's broken for us as victims because we're told that if we don't agree with the plea, that the defendant may walk. The defendants, on the other hand, are told, if you don't take the plea, you may get 40 years. So the system, and from my perspective, doesn't have an opportunity to play out.
Right.
The defendants do not have an opportunity to go before a trial of their peers, get their peers an opportunity for them to go before trial. And so as I was going through that, my heart broke for the mother on the other side, as well as the defendant. Because if that was my boy on the other side, I would want him to have fair and equitable justice. I would want him to have the best opportunity that he has as far as defending himself.
Right.
And so in that is so much loss.
Yeah.
It's loss for me because I'm a mother that would never see my child again.
Right.
But it's loss also for the other mother who was thrown into this situation just because her child did something, whatever the child did.
Right.
And so my heart breaks for everyone that's involved. Of course, I want justice for my child.
Yes.
I want the persons responsible for her death to pay the penalty for her death. With that said, I don't think that I will ever get that here in the state of Mississippi. But my hope is not in the state of Mississippi.
Definitely.
My hope is in Christ.
That's right.
And my hope is that God is going to avenge me and her.
Right.
But there are other people that don't have that hope.
That's right.
So my goal is to share the hope that I have and at the same time advocate for the victims who have lost children due to violence.
To gun violence, to drive-by shootings and all of that, because there is a lot of violence that goes on, not just in Jackson, Mississippi, everywhere, you know, but there's a lot of gun violence that's going on. And for me, it's just so heartbreaking that people don't fight anymore. They don't settle it with their hands. They just want to pick up a gun and shoot and just keep it, you know, and it's like there's no remorse.
Right. When we were growing up, if we had an altercation or we were mad in the family, they make us hug and say we're sorry.
Yes.
Y'all hug and say y'all sorry.
You better.
And that's what we did.
Yes.
And it's just sad today that and I use this analogy, that we use the gun as our God. We worship and we bow down to the gun. You know, we can't, instead of us trying to work out differences, we choose to take the gun.
Yeah.
The other thing is not, you know, we're not willing to walk away, you know. Whatever happened is just, you know, just look, I'm just going to go on, I'm just going to walk away. And we don't have people that are willing to do that now.
Right.
Our pride will not allow us to just walk away.
Yes.
And so that's sad, but, you know, that's the way it is.
Right.
And now people are down. Our kids are dying. Our African-American kids are dying.
Yes.
And they're dying at a younger and younger age.
Yes.
And one of the things that would grant me justice that I desired to do was to tell stories And that's where I go and interview mothers that have lost their children, because nobody knows my daughter's name.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
Nobody knows that. Nobody knows my child was killed on March 14, 2017. Everyone knows George Floyd's name.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Everyone knows his name. And so I think that it does us such an injustice for us as African-American people, for us never to talk about the fact that we're killing one another.
Yes.
And we need to stop that.
Yes. Yes,
we need
ma'am.
to stop that.
Please tell us your daughter's name.
Alexia Buckhalter. And she was born on March 1st, 1991.
Awesome. Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we will say her name.
Thank you.
Yes, we will say her name. Alexia Buckhalter. Awesome. So Felicia, you are now in the editing process of your book, Grant Me Justice, A Mother's Journey for Justice. So kind of talk to us about your book. Of course, we know it kind of talks about your daughter, but kind of talk to us about the book and then when we can expect to be able to purchase and read your book.
Oh, yes. My book is in the editing process. The book is about really my story. It's about my story as a young person growing up in Mississippi, and how I got to the point where I had to go through the criminal justice system. The story is about hope. It's about my journey in the criminal justice system, but it's also about redemption. And how I was able to see what Christ has done on the cross for me. And to learn that he took on my sin that in full. He went before trial. He accepted the death penalty for me and for everyone else. And to know that there's even room at the cross for the murderer. And so that's what Grant Me Justice is all about.
That's awesome.
I'm in the editing process right now. Hopefully we'll have the book ready by the end of the summer. That's my prayer. I've started the editing process, and every time I think I've missed something, I need to add something and take something out, but I'm super excited about it.
Well, we're looking forward to being able to get that book and read that book. So Felicia, tell all of our viewers how they can, if they want to help your organization. She works, she helps, she speaks, and tell them about how they can help.
Okay, so Sisters Here to Empower, and Grant Me Justice. We have an office in Byram. Our office at 118 Byram Parkway in Byram. You can reach out to me. My number is 601-540-2817. The email for Grant Me Justice is grantmejustice2, the number 2, at gmail.com. The website for Grant Me Justice is grant-me-justice.org. Sisters Here to Empower is just that, sistersheretoempower.org, and the contact information is the same.
Awesome. Felicia, thank you so much for coming and being willing to, for being willing to come and share your story and share your daughter with us. Just thank you so much for being open and talking with us about your story and your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I was super excited about being here. God is good, and he's doing some amazing things in the lives of his people.
Yes, he is. Amen. All right, you guys. Thank y'all so much for joining us for another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. We look forward to seeing y'all next time. Bye-bye. If you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, please reach out to us. You can email us at joanne@womantowomanwithjoanne.com.